Welcome to the second video for 10-2, where we will still be simplifying radicals. Today we're going to add some variables to what we're doing. So it starts off the exact same, where I want you to worry about just the number. So I'm looking at this 32, and I think the biggest square number that'll go into that is 16, and the square root of 16 is 4, and the square root of 2 is an ugly number. I'm just going to write it here on the right, but do you notice that I left quite a big gap? And that's because I'm looking at those variables and thinking that some of those are going to come out. So just like you were able to split up the 16 and 2 from that 32, I'm going to split up each of these variables and kind of assess them one by one. I know anytime I'm taking the square root of something squared, that actually cancels, right? So now I just have an r. What I'm essentially doing, when you have these square roots, you are taking the exponent and dividing it by 2. Now, you don't always specifically divide by 2 when you're dealing with radicals. You'll get to see some other weird cases as we move down our mathematical career. But for today, it's always just going to be take your exponent and divide it by 2. So this 2 divided by 2 gives me a 1, but of course I don't have to write that 1, so it's just r. Okay, so that means the square root of k to the 4th, take that 4, divide it by 2, what do you get? K squared. Now there's a catch. I know you're looking at that t to the 5th and you're thinking, oh, okay, 2.5, that's what I write. Well, except we don't want any fraction exponents. So here's what I'm going to do with that. I'm going to take the biggest even number smaller than my exponent and rewrite my variable using that. So the biggest even number smaller than my exponent, in this case 5, is 4, right? So I have t to the 4th. Now I can't just lose that last t, so let's go ahead and bring that other t down. Remember, when you're multiplying variables, you add the exponents, so that's why I know that this is the same thing as that. Now, if I think about it, this 4 divided by 2 is going to give me t squared, and then that leaves me just a t left over underneath the radical sign. That's your answer. That's it. I'll do another one because I know it's weird. So on this one, I'm trying to think what's my biggest square number that can go into that. And then again up here I have those listed in case you aren't sure. And I think this time I see just a 4. 4 times 14 gives me that 56. And so the square root of 4 is 2. And then I'm going to bring over that root 14 over here. Now I'm checking out this x. That is just the square root of x, since, I mean, there's no variable or exponent for me to try and simplify down to, because, you know, the smallest, it's 1. I mean, I can't break it down any more than that. So it's just going to stay with the 14. 10 divided by 2 is going to become y to the 5th. And z to the 5th, how about I rewrite that as z to the 4th and z to the 1st, which means that 4 divided by 2 is just 2. And the z, all that stays underneath the radical sign, like so. That's my answer. Alrighty, let's try some division. So with division, it's kind of the same idea with that multiplication, where you can separate it out into multiple radical signs. You can do the same thing here. So this is multiple choice, so I'm just cross those out so they don't confuse me. I can rewrite this as root 35 over root 15. Why is that helpful? Well, what I'm going to do now is multiply both the top and the bottom by the bottom. See how I put that root 15? Why is that helpful? Well, anytime you have something being multiplied by itself, isn't that just that same thing squared? Well, that's helpful because root 15 times root 15 is actually just root 15 squared. Now you have a square root of a square. That cancels, and I'm left with just 15 on the bottom. Then on top, I have root 35 times root 15, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply that 35 times the 15, and that gives me the square root of 525. I'm going to go ahead and see if anything can go into that. I'm going to maybe do some chicken scratch work off to the side. I'm thinking maybe a 25 is going to go into there. And it looks like it's going to go in 21 times. And the square root of 25 is 5. And I can't take anything out of that 21. So I'm just going to leave it as 5 root 21. So now, it's by all means, it seems like I'm done. But if I plug this into Delta Math, it's actually going to tell me that I am wrong. And that's because this 5 and this 15 will simplify. So what I'm going to do is simplify that. That would be 1 over 3. So my final answer is root 21 over 3. And in this multiple choice question, I guess that would make that B. I'll do another one of these at the end if you want to see it. I'm going to go to the next type of problem real quick. We're going to come down here and do number 26. So what's different about 26 is it has these numbers on the outside of the radical sign. It's still super easy though, because check it out. All you have to do, multiply the stuff on the outside of the radical together. So the 4 and the 5, 4 times 5 is 20. Multiply the stuff underneath the radical sign together. So the 2 and the 8, which is 16. And then simplify the radical sign. So actually in this case, that's pretty handy because the square root of 16 is just 4. And remember there's like a little multiplication sign here. So anything that you end up being able to take out, you're going to go ahead and just keep multiplying all the stuff that's on the outside together. So 20 times 4 is 80. That would be my final answer. If, for example, I'm going to make something up over here. Let's say we had done that, but we ended up at 20 radical 32. And so we were breaking that down to be 16 and 2, which we know is 4 root 2. But you're still multiplying that by 20, then my answer would have been 80 root 2 in that situation. Okay, that's all the new stuff. I'm going to go do another division problem. If you got that division, you can go ahead and close out. Otherwise, one more example and then I'll be done for today. So here's this. Again, I'm just going to multiply by the bottom. So root 12 and root 12. Because that's going to give me the square root of 12 squared, which cancels nicely to be just 12. But now on top, I'm going to need to take that 6y times 12, which is going to give me the square root of 72y. I'm going to do some chicken scratch down here with that 72y. And let's see, I think a 36 goes in. What do you think? Times 2. Square root of 36 is 6. Can't do anything with the 2. The y stays as well. So now I have 6 root 2y. Now, once again, if you plug that in, it would be incorrect because the 6 and the 12 will simplify. Both of those are divisible by 6, so it would be 1 times the square root of 2y. Of course, I don't have to write that 1, do I? So it would just be the square root of 2y divided by 2, which on this multiple choice problem would make that h.